But you're also pregnant.
I'm pregnant.
Hey everybody, this is Perch, and if you're like me, whenever the mainstream media news decides to cover comics, you always kind of cringe a little bit before you see what they're going to talk about, because generally they get it wrong. They start saying funny books. They seem really compelled to insert things like bow, pow, and wham into their article for no apparent reason. But here's this story that's come out, and it kind of flew under the radar for a day or two, and then people started paying attention. This is from The Joker, and this is a comic that just came out fairly recently. It's Joker #4, The Man Who Stopped Laughing. This is by Matt Rosenberg. And in particular, it's not the main story that is going on that is revealing multiple Jokers and kind of a mystery there by Carmine D. Gindel. You know what? Sorry. I'm going to just butcher the name no matter how I do it. It's by Matt Rosenberg, and an incredible artist. This story, though, that everybody's kind of reacting to is the backup story. So let me just say on the offset, it's not. I'm not going to say, "Hey, this is no big deal." It is a weird story. It's strangely written, and I'll explain a little bit why I find it so strange. I'm not telling you can be angry or not angry. I'm not saying this isn't a big deal. This is a here are the facts, ma'am, kind of video, and then you can figure it all out for yourself. So, as I mentioned, this is from Joker #4. It is the backup story, and it's by, in this case, Matt Rosenberg, and the artist on the backup story is Francesco Francavilla, who does pretty great work, honestly. I usually love that guy's work. This is a story called Knocked Upside Down. And what it's doing, what all of these backup stories have been, both kind of in writing style and plot, is that they feel like they're from the Silver Age. They even use the classic Joker logo there. And the Silver Age, there's a lot of crazy things going on, particularly in the Superman books. Some in the Batman for sure, but in the Superman books, you had things like Jimmy Olsen turning into Bizarro. You had, them reading minds. You had Perry White getting a magic cigars. You had Jimmy turning into a porcupine, werewolf. You had Lois turning into a witch and an old hag. You had all kinds. I mean, the Silver Age was filled with these kinds of insane adventures, and it's important to keep that in mind because that is really the genesis of what's going on in this Joker story. Whether they succeed or not, I'll leave to you, but it's trying to basically take that Silver Age feel of it where, like Superman turned into an insect and, a monkey. And it was a time where body transformation was really popular in these books. And I've done videos on this. Casually Comics have shown a bunch of videos on this. Pretty common. So in this one, cutting to the chase, basically the Joker is, we'll walk through the story. I'm going to show you the pages. I'm going to show you every single panel here, and you decide for yourself. There's nothing being hidden. But Fox News showed up and said, grotesque new Batman story features the Joker becoming pregnant and giving birth to a handsome baby. And there's some inferral inside the article that the Joker has turned trans in this, it's part of the woke agenda. Former GOP congressional candidate Robbie Starbuck weighed in the new issue, tweeting, "In the new Joker comic, he gets pregnant and gives birth. Yep, the Joker is trans now. At least the character is the Joker because a pregnant woman thinking they're pregnant man is the definition of a Joker. Who else is sick of this lunacy?" That's a very unfair description of this comic. Other than, you may think this story sucks and, you may be sick of the lunacy, and that's totally fine. Again, where I think this story went wrong, and now we're going to show you the pages. I'll read a little bit more from the Fox article. I'll show you the pages. Is that it's trying to capture the Silver Age, but it's not doing it particularly well, is my opinion. The Silver Age, it's hard to capture that magic. There's a little bit of there's an absurdity to it all, and in this one, it's clearly attempting to be that, but it's not landing it, and I think. Anyway, it's in the writing. It's hard to describe. All I can say is if you care and you're interested, go look at a bunch of old Superman, Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, Silver Age issues, read kind of that, and then read this, and you'll go, I get it. I see what they're trying to do here, but it's different. It doesn't read the same. So, for what it's worth. At any rate, the Fox story describes it as the latest chapter in the Joker's nefarious story arc, may be the DC Comics archvillain's most unusual yet. He becomes pregnant. In the latest issue of DC Comics series The Joker, the man who stopped laughing, Batman's nemesis actually carries and gives birth to a child. If that sounds strange, that's the way the graphic novel company intended it. On its website, DC Comics advertised the issue containing Joker's most bizarre caper yet. For what it's worth, by the way, there's some inaccuracies in that line. The Joker does not actually carry and give birth to a child, and we'll show you the pages. And then when they say it's a Joker's most bizarre caper yet, they're referring more to the main story than the backup story. It's not exactly all that. So anyway, they kind of go through that it's, this may be part of DC's attempt to do some woke LGBTQ inclusive storytelling, with the Joker being a transgender man undergoing a typical pregnancy, although it's not quite that simple. And then they kind of go through it, but it still doesn't feel like the writer of this article actually read the comic. So I guess I need to let me just say it as plainly as possible. I try and look on all sides and everything, but where this article is concerned, the writer of the article, the person who actually did the quote unquote work to do this, where this person is concerned, it's a shit article. It's wrong. It's wrong on multiple facts. Okay, this is by Gabriel Hayes, who is basically in the running to be more inaccurate than Rich Johnston. They get the artist on the story wrong. They get the comic wrong. They neglect to mention that it's the backup story. They continue to talk about pregnant, even though the panels clearly show he's not. It's just there's a bunch of things that are just flat wrong. And this is the stuff, if we're being fair, again, no matter where you sit in all this, and this is the fake geek girl stuff, where people who make a bunch of comments about this stuff, make a bunch of things, are clearly inaccurate, clearly wrong. Again, cites the wrong artist in the book. Clearly wrong. This isn't a matter of opinion. There's actually just facts that are wrong in this story. And then it stirs up a bunch of attention. It's just, what are you supposed to do with this stuff? It's a poorly written article by somebody who clearly didn't actually read the comic. That's all. That's as far as you can go. Yeah. Again, as I said, you still think the story is stupid? I do. You could still think this is wasting their IP? I do. You could think this is damaging for the overall, this is just one thing of many where it's just dumb. I don't know what they're doing with these stories. Absolutely. But at least get your facts right. Your facts are wrong. Fundamentally wrong. So let me explain, basically, if you're looking at the screen right now, you're seeing the comic. So basically, the Joker, the Crown Prince of Crime, has done it again. Stealing all the water from Gotham River was a hilarious prank. But now the Joker, along with his trusty henchmen, Jackanapes and Gaggy, is being attacked by another goody two-shoes who goes by the name of Zatanna. So the Joker is basically, crazy hijinks, because very Silver Age Joker, being silly. He's drained the water from Gotham, and now he's attracted to Zatanna. And they're kind of making the joke about, hey, she's showing up in a magician costume with fishnets. Who wouldn't be attracted to her? So at any rate, the Joker's like, hey, we could start a family. I'll stop committing crime. I didn't even steal the water. Kind of, silliness. And so Zatanna's not having any of it. So she basically drops the Joker into the mud. And then he continues to kind of flirt with her a little bit and say, hey, let's have kids, my looks and your personality. And she stomps his face into the mud here and says, no one else will ever have your baby. Because she's doing the backwards talking thing. And then she just kind of walks away. Now, the most irresponsible thing about this comic is that you got the Joker who terrorizes Gotham on a regular basis, and Zatanna basically stomps him into the mud and just takes off. So the Joker doesn't feel good. He's saying, I think I swallowed too much mud. And he goes home and goes to sleep. The next morning, he wakes up, and he's got what looks like a pregnant belly. And the other two are like, hey, you look... Yeah, I think you're pregnant. You've got a big belly. So he goes from regular Joker to fat belly overnight. And they're like, oh, we better go call a doctor to see what's going on. And so then they do some, silly shenanigans where the Joker goes and gets into the stirrups and has an OGBYN. In this case, it's Dr. Phosphorus. And they make some jokes about I mean, the big joke here is that Joker can't remember his name, so he calls him the Atomic Skull, and then he calls him Doctor Bones or Director Bones, and then he calls him later Lord Deathman. And so he's just, and the doctor's like, it's Dr. Phosphorus. It's Dr. Phosphorus. Well, after a quick check, and the doctor says, I don't even know where the baby's going to come out from here, so it's probably going to hurt. So he tells him, well, let's push. And Joker then, pushes his henchman. And so there's some jokes there. And then the Joker vomits, and he vomits up this mud. And the mud basically is sentient and comes out and starts running around. And at this point, my perception of this comic is that he basically swallowed Clayface or some aspect of Clayface, and that's what's going on. That he had Clayface, when his face was shoved into the mud, he digested a bunch of Clayface. That's why Joker said, I've swallowed all this mud. And then he vomits out this creature, and the creature goes running around, and then that's what we got here. And so then you get some silliness of Joker and the henchman and Dr. Phosphorus running around trying to catch the mud baby, saying it's an ugly little bastard. And then Jackanapes basically mows down both Dr. Phosphorus and the other henchman. And it's like, oh, shit, we killed him. And then they continue to chase the guy, and finally they find him 20 unproductive minutes later. They find him in the basement, I guess, and the clay baby comes out and has reformed its appearance to look like the Joker, which is what Clayface does. And so Joker's like, what the hell did I just eat? And the Joker's like, wow, he's so handsome. Both of them are thinking that about each other because the Joker is, it made that joke early in the comic or early in the beginning of this going, with my looks and your personality to Zatanna. So he's, full of himself. And so then the Joker takes Mini Joker, who's dressed up like him now, to see Zatanna, who's putting on a magic show several weird weeks later. And he's got this little, baby version of Joker. And Joker is saying, sorry it didn't work out. Would have made we would have made a wonderful family, but it worked out without you. And then, look, we have a son. And then that's the gag. So that's the comic. And again, you saw it all. There wasn't an extra panel in there. It's not, it's a backup story. It's not a good story. I mean, it's pointless in the grand scheme of things. It's the Joker. It's like a Silver Age version of the Joker. The thing is, if this comic had come out in the 70s, just like this, I doubt anyone would have really noticed it one way or another. I think all the comic readers at the time would have been like, oh, that's Clayface, and that's what would have happened. Again, we're in a world where, all kinds of crazy, insane stuff was happening. Superman got a face of a lion, and all kinds of stuff. They were always pranking and screwing with each other. So it still doesn't feel like exactly a Silver Age comic to me. Something is off in the writing, kind of how it all comes out. It's trying a little bit too hard. I do like the artist. I always have. He's done some great work, throughout the years in kind of that style. But that's where it is. So I guess, again, as I said at the beginning, I'm not saying, hey, no big deal. I am saying that the Fox article is a little misleading, and people coming into this saying, DC has just made Joker trans. Well, no. Again, this isn't set in current continuity. It's an old throwback story. He was never pregnant at all. He just swallowed a bunch of mud. They even have a panel there where the doctor's saying, there's no there's no vagina down here, so I don't know where the baby's going to come from. He never has a baby. He vomits up this thing. So it's absurd and it's stupid. I think given all of the focus around trans rights and all the rest of the stuff, I understand where people's heads go. I'm trying to be very fair about why people go there. But this feels like kind of a nonsense moment. I don't say it's on all fronts. It's not exactly a panel taken out of context, but I think you really have to stretch your imagination if you're saying that DC is trying to kind of test the waters to have men be pregnant and do trans rights. There's not anything trans supportive in this comic. I mean, he's vomiting up a mud baby. I don't know. Maybe that, I don't know how that helps the trans community. I'm just being honest. I don't I don't know how that means anything. But anyway, that's the comic. You saw it for yourself on the page. Draw your own conclusions. If you do believe that this was DC kind of, dipping their toe into getting you prepared for more trans heroes and villains, men giving birth. I mean, I have a hard time seeing it because it's just so absurd and stupid. Again, I read this story a week ago or more, and I'm like, oh, that's Clayface. That's what I thought, and I kind of put the story down as like, this kind of stupid, and went on about my day. Again, in the what was it back in? At one point, remember, Superman had rainbow hand powers where he could shoot rainbows out of his fingers and then create little midget Superman clones that would materialize out of his hands. That was something that happened back in the Silver Age. That is a power, in theory, he still has. They just don't reference it. So I'm just saying, there's been lots of stupid stuff in the past, and this feels like that to me. But if you're bothered by it, if this is a big offense, by all means. Again, I think the Fox News story is pretty absurd in how they cover it. They're definitely trying to get the woke outrage clicks for what is, and at the very least in the story, they could, give some more of the facts. Like, this was a backup story. This has nothing to do with the overall comic. This is, this, I don't know. There's just plenty of stuff here that is misleading. I'll put it that way from the news. So, but again, it's comics, and people have been covering that stupid for all time. I think the story is pretty dumb, personally, pretty dumb. But I don't know. I don't think doing 50 Batman comics a month. Yes, that's an exaggeration, but not by much. And all these backup stories and kind of reference. I think all of this kind of destroys the brand. I don't think this is good at all to do this. This is being silly. But for the Fox News article, actually had another, like this, I'll leave you this. Conservative influencer Nick Adams remarked, the latest issue of Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing comic book, features a scene where the Joker, a man, becomes pregnant. That's not how it works. I am calling for a complete and total boycott of the Joker until further notice. What's next? A fully electric Batmobile? Okay, so number one, it's been a fully electric Batmobile actually many times throughout the years, including back in the 70s. They had storylines where it was a fully electric Batmobile. They didn't say it was save the climate. It was cool at the time. Just like when you had the fully electric Tesla, before everybody was all hyper obsessed about this stuff, people were like, oh, it's cool. It's quiet. It's electric. I don't have to go to the gas station anymore. It smells super. The Joker never became pregnant. Yeah, that's not how it works. That wasn't how it worked in the comics either. So anyway, it's all silly. You've seen it for yourself. By all means, continue to be disgusted and outraged and whatever, and you can call it a stupid story. I did. I think it's a stupid story. But at least now you've seen the panels for yourself. So there you go. Anyway, let me know what you think about all this, and thanks for listening.
My nipples are very sensitive.
What?